My name is Jake, and I'm 27 years old. I always knew my family didn't like me. That's not me being dramatic or self-pitying. It's just a fact I had come to accept over the years. Some people are born into warm, loving homes where parents and siblings support one another no matter what. Others, like me, grow up as the black sheep, the unwanted extra. But even though I knew I wasn't their favorite, I never thought they'd go this far. For most of my life, I tried to be the good son. I worked hard, kept my head down, and did what was expected of me. My parents weren't outright cruel, not in any way that could be easily explained to someone who hadn't lived through it. It was more subtle than that. My older brother, Nate, could do no wrong. My younger sister, Emily, was the golden child. And me? I was tolerated. If Nate needed help paying off his car, my parents covered it. If Emily wanted to go on a trip with her friends, they handed her their credit card. Meanwhile, if I so much as asked for a ride home from work when my car broke down, I was too needy. If I asked for any help at all, I was a grown man who needed to figure things out on his own. I should have cut them off years ago. I don't even know why I kept trying. Maybe it was just some desperate hope that one day things would change, that one day they'd treat me like family. But the truth was, they did treat me like family, just not in the way I wanted. They treated me like an ATM. See, despite all their complaints about how tight money was, and how I needed to be grateful for what little they could give, I was constantly the one bailing them out. It started small, covering groceries here and there, paying a bill just this once. Then it escalated. A sudden medical bill my parents needed help with. Nate's car insurance lapsed, and he just needed a little help. Emily's tuition was due, and they didn't have enough to cover it. Every time, I was guilted into helping. Every time, they promised they'd pay me back. They never did. And when I finally tried to put my foot down, they acted like I was the selfish one. "We're your family, Jake," my mom would sigh. "You wouldn't even be here if it weren't for us. Can't you contribute a little?" I should have said no. I should have walked away then. But I didn't. I kept letting it happen. And then, one night, I found the folder. It started with something innocent. My dad had asked me to fix his laptop, nothing major, just some issue with the Wi-Fi not connecting. He's awful with technology, and I've always been the one to fix things. I was about to hand it back when I noticed something odd. There was a folder on the desktop labeled Memories. Now, that wouldn't have meant anything on its own. But what caught my eye was that it had been modified just a few days ago. I don't know why I clicked it. Maybe I was just curious. Maybe I had some gut feeling, some subconscious warning that something was off. Whatever it was, I double-clicked the folder, and suddenly, a collection of neatly organized photos popped up. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Dozens of subfolders, each with a date. Hawaii trip 2021. Christmas 2020. Emily's birthday 2019. I clicked into one randomly, and there they were, my family, smiling, laughing, having the time of their lives on a trip I had never even heard about. I clicked another folder, then another. Photo after photo. My parents, my siblings, my aunts and uncles. Family barbecues, vacations, birthdays. I wasn't in a single one. At first, I thought, maybe I was busy. Maybe I was working when they took these trips. But then I saw the dates. Every single one of these events had taken place during times when I was right there, living in the same city, talking to them, helping them with money. They just hadn't invited me. And that wasn't even the worst part. Because as I kept scrolling, something hit me like a freight train. I recognized these dates. I knew these dates. Because these were the exact same times they had come to me, claiming they were struggling. The same weeks my mother had called me crying, saying they couldn't make rent. The same months Nate had begged me to help him with unexpected car repairs. The same moments Emily had sworn she needed a few $100s to buy books for school. They had been lying to me. Lying so they could fund these trips. Lying so I would keep giving them money. My hands were shaking as I scrolled. The rage that bubbled up inside me was something I had never felt before. I had suspected for years that they used me, but seeing the proof laid out in front of me like this, seeing concrete evidence that I had been nothing but a wallet to them, I don't even remember closing the laptop. I just remember sitting there, heart pounding in my chest, stomach twisted in knots. All those years, all those sacrifices, and I was never part of their family. I was just their bank account, and I was done. I was still in my parents' house when I found the folder. I don't know why I hadn't thought about that sooner, but as I sat there, staring at the screen, the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I wasn't in my apartment. I wasn't somewhere safe where I could process what I had just seen. I was sitting at my parents' kitchen table, my dad's laptop in front of me, and they were right in the next room. My hands curled into fists. I could hear them talking, laughing, completely unaware that, in just a few minutes, everything was about to change. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but it was useless. My heart was racing, my thoughts were running wild. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to say, what I wanted to do, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to walk out of this house without confronting them. They had used me. For years. I wasn't just angry, I was furious. I snapped the laptop shut and stood up. My legs felt shaky, but I forced myself to move, to walk into the living room where my parents were sitting on the couch. My mom was scrolling through her phone, and my dad was watching some random game show on TV. They didn't even look up when I entered. "Hey," I said, my voice tight. "Can I ask you guys something?" My mom sighed dramatically, still not looking up. "Jake, if this is about money," that was all it took to set me off. "Money," I repeated, letting out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Yeah, actually, let's talk about money." My dad finally looked up, frowning. "What's with the attitude?" I ignored him. I was too far gone. I pulled out the chair across from them and sat down, folding my arms. My hands were still shaking, but I gritted my teeth and pushed forward. "You know," I started, keeping my voice even. "I was just fixing Dad's laptop. The Wi-Fi wasn't working." Mom rolled her eyes. "Okay. And while I was at it, I happened to see this folder on the desktop. Memories, I think it was called." I tilted my head, pretending to think. Weird, right? Because I looked inside, and guess what? It's filled with pictures of you guys. I saw it immediately. The way my mom's posture stiffened, the way my dad's jaw clenched just slightly. They knew. They knew exactly what I was talking about. "Jake," Mom started, but I cut her off. "You know what's funny?" I continued, voice dripping with sarcasm. "I don't remember taking any of those pictures." And then I realized, oh wait, that's because I wasn't there. Silence. Complete and utter silence. For the first time in my life, my parents didn't have an immediate excuse. No quick lies, no deflections. Just the sound of the game show playing in the background, the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, and my own pounding heartbeat. "Jake, you're being ridiculous," Mom finally said, forcing a laugh. "Those are just old pictures." I let out another sharp laugh. "Old pictures? Really?" Because I checked the dates. Hawaii 2021. Christmas 2020. Emily's birthday 2019. I narrowed my eyes. "All the exact same times you were calling me, begging for money because you were barely getting by." Mom's face paled. My dad shifted uncomfortably, scratching the back of his head. "Now, son, you're blowing this out of proportion, am I?" I shot back. My voice was rising now, but I didn't care. I was past the point of holding back. My sister, Emily, came down the stairs at that moment, her phone in hand, looking annoyed. "Why are you yelling?" she asked, like I was the problem. I turned to her, my anger boiling over. "Oh, I don't know, Emily. Maybe because I just found out that my entire family has been going on vacations and throwing parties while lying to me about being broke." Her expression flickered, just for a second, but then she scoffed. "You're seriously mad about that?" I stared at her, completely dumbfounded. Mad about that? The sheer audacity of it all nearly knocked the wind out of me. "Of course I'm mad," I said, my voice dangerously low now. "You guys have been treating me like an ATM for years. And the whole time, you were using that money for this." "Oh, come on." Emily rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "It's not like it's a big deal." I could feel my pulse in my throat. "Not a big deal," I repeated, my voice trembling with rage. "I was working overtime to help you guys. I skipped out on things I wanted to do because I thought my family needed me. I put off buying a new car. I barely took any vacations. I was living as frugally as I could, all because you had me convinced that you were struggling." Mom finally spoke again, her voice sharp. "Jake, you have more money than us. You don't have kids. You don't have the same responsibilities. It's only fair that you help out." Fair. That word made something snap inside me. I slammed my hand down on the coffee table so hard that Emily actually flinched. "Fair," I hissed. "You think this is fair? I have more money because I work my butt off. And you think it's fair that I was financing your vacations while I was sitting at home thinking you guys could barely afford food?" Dad finally stood up, raising a hand like he was telling me to calm down. "Jake, listen." "No," I cut him off. "You listen. I'm done. Done." The room went dead silent again. Mom's mouth opened and closed like she wanted to say something, but for once, she had no words. I pushed my chair back and stood up. My hands were still shaking, my vision felt blurry with rage, but I had made up my mind. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and opened our family group chat. My thumb hovered over the screen for only a second before I typed the words with absolute finality. Don't contact me again. I hit send. The second the message delivered, Mom let out a dramatic gasp. Jake, don't be ridiculous. You're acting like we did something horrible. I turned to her, my entire body tense. You did do something horrible. Emily scoffed. Oh my gosh, you're so dramatic. Dad's face was red now, his jaw tightening. You're seriously going to throw away your family over this? I met his gaze, my voice steady. You threw me away first. And with that, I turned, grabbed my coat, and walked toward the door. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know what they would do, what they would say, how they would react once the shock wore off. But I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. I barely made it to my car before my phone started blowing up. The first call was from my mom. I stared at the screen as it rang, her contact name flashing. Mom, but I didn't answer. I was too angry, too shaken. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, just listening to the phone vibrate. Then my dad called. Then Emily. Then Mom again. I turned my phone on silent, shoving it into the passenger seat. But even then, I could still feel it buzzing every few seconds. Text after text, call after call. Then, a message popped up from my mom. Jake, pick up. We need to talk. You're overreacting. Overreacting. That word nearly sent me spiraling. I sucked in a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm, to not go back into that house and scream at them all over again. Another text. Dad texted. Son, I think we should all sit down and talk about this. Let's be reasonable. Reasonable. Now that was Rich. I started the car, gripping the gear shift so tightly my fingers ached. I needed to get out of here. Out of this neighborhood, away from them. But before I could pull out of the driveway, my phone lit up with another call. Emily. She had already called me 3 times, and now she was trying again. I let it ring. And ring. And then, finally, just before it went to voicemail, something in me snapped. I answered. What? I snapped, my voice tight with barely controlled anger. Jake, don't be stupid, she said, exasperated. You're acting like a total psycho right now. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Oh, I'm the psycho? That's funny. Emily, because I seem to remember you being totally fine with lying to me for years. Oh my God, she groaned. You are so dramatic. It's not like we stole from you or something. A humorless chuckle escaped me. Emily, I hissed, you did steal from me. You took advantage of me. You all did. You made me think you were barely making it when, in reality, you were off on vacations, throwing parties, without me. She scoffed. You're acting like you were entitled to be there. Newsflash, Jake, sometimes families do things separately. I clenched my jaw so tightly I thought my teeth might crack. Emily, I said slowly, forcing my voice to stay level. Was I ever invited? Even once. Silence. Just for a second. Then she huffed. I don't know. Maybe Mom and Dad didn't think you'd want to come. Maybe you were busy. Who cares? My stomach twisted. Who cares? I repeated quietly. I care. I care that the people who were supposed to love me treated me like an outsider while happily taking my money. I care that I spent years putting you guys first, only to find out that I was nothing more than a paycheck to you. She groaned. Ugh, stop being such a victim. That word, victim, made something snap inside me. I let out a slow breath, my hands gripping the steering wheel. You know what, Emily? I said, my voice eerily calm. I think we're done here. Oh, don't be so dramatic. I hung up. Almost immediately, she called again. I ignored it. Then another text came through. Emily texted. Are you serious? You're seriously cutting us off over this. Then another. Mom is crying, Jake. Dad is mad. You're being so selfish. Selfish. I stared at the word, my fingers tightening around my phone. How dare they? How dare they act like I was the one in the wrong? The anger inside me burned hotter than before, but this time, it wasn't just rage, it was clarity. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't being dramatic. I was waking up. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat, ignoring the new messages that kept coming in, and finally pulled out of the driveway. But even as I drove away, I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I drove in silence, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. My mind raced, replaying every moment from the past few years. Every time they had called, voices thick with worry, saying they were struggling. Every time I had sent them money without a second thought. Every time I had gone without, thinking I was helping them. I clenched my jaw so hard it ached. And all that time, they were living it up. Fancy dinners, vacations, celebrations without me. My phone buzzed again. Then again. I knew who it was before I even glanced at the screen. Mom. Then Dad. Then Mom again. I exhaled sharply and pulled over into an empty parking lot, gripping my phone. If I didn't answer now, they'd just keep calling. I hesitated for half a second before swiping to accept. What? Mom's voice came through, thick with forced concern. Jake, honey, we need to talk. This is all just a big misunderstanding. I let out a short, bitter laugh. A misunderstanding? I repeated. I saw the pictures, Mom. I saw everything. Stop lying. Sweetheart, it's not what you think. Then what is it? I cut in. Because from where I'm standing, it looks a whole lot like you all used me. There was a pause. Then, her voice turned sharp. Jake, don't speak to me like that. I almost laughed. Are you serious? You don't understand, she pressed. Your father and I, we just didn't think you'd be interested. That's all. Oh, right, I said mockingly. You just assumed I wouldn't want to go on vacations with my own family. So instead of inviting me, you just took my money and went without me. That's not fair, she snapped. We never forced you to give us anything. My grip on the phone tightened. Are you kidding me? Every time you called, you made it sound like you were barely scraping by. Like if I didn't help, you'd be in serious trouble. Jake, she sighed, and I could practically hear her rolling her eyes. Families support each other. I scoffed. Funny how that only applies when I'm the one giving. She stayed silent for a beat, then tried a different approach. Jake, I know you're upset, but let's not make any rash decisions. You don't want to do something you'll regret. I inhaled slowly, forcing myself to stay calm. You mean, like cutting you off? Her voice immediately sharpened. Don't be ridiculous. You're not cutting us off. I almost smiled. There it was, the real her, peeking through the fake sweetness. Actually, I said, I am. Jake, she said sharply. Stop acting like a child. I'm done, Mom, I said firmly. I'm done being used. I'm done being lied to. And I'm done pretending this family actually cares about me. There was a beat of silence. Then she scoffed. You're being so selfish. I nearly laughed. You know what? I'm hanging up now. Jake, don't you dare. I ended the call. Almost immediately, my phone rang again. This time, it was Dad. I sighed and answered. What? Son, he said in his usual low, authoritative voice. You need to calm down. I rubbed my temple. Dad, I swear to God, if you tell me I'm overreacting, listen, he cut in, his voice sharp. I don't know what you think you saw, but you're blowing this way out of proportion. We didn't mean to leave you out. Mean to? I repeated. That doesn't change the fact that you did. He let out a heavy sigh, like I was the one exhausting him. Jake, your family. We love you. But this attitude? It's not acceptable. I actually laughed at that. Oh, my attitude is the problem? Not the years of lying, the manipulation, the gaslighting. You watch your mouth, he cut in, his voice dangerously low. I froze. That tone, it was the one he used when I was a kid, when he wanted to remind me who was in charge. I suddenly felt very tired. I exhaled slowly. You know what, Dad? I said. I think we're done here. You're not cutting us off, he said immediately. You don't get to do that. Oh, I don't. I said mockingly. Watch me. Jake. I hung up. I stared at my phone, half expecting it to ring again. But for the first time in the past hour, it was silent. The days that followed were strange. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to deal with constant calls and texts from my family, and honestly, it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For a while, I was just floating. No drama, no guilt, no manipulation. I spent most of my time focusing on myself, trying to piece together everything that had happened. But as the days turned into weeks, things started to get more complicated. At first, there were more calls, messages, and emails from my parents, apologies, pleading, guilt trips. My mom, my dad, even Emily, they all had their own version of the "we're sorry" script. They tried to make it sound like nothing was ever their fault, like I had misunderstood everything. They claimed they didn't mean to hurt me, that they just didn't want to burden me with their problems, and that I had been too sensitive. But the more I heard it, the more it felt like they were trying to undo the consequences of their actions without actually acknowledging what they'd done. It became exhausting. One evening, I came home to a voicemail from Emily. She sounded like she had been crying. "Jake, please. I'm really sorry. I know I messed up, and I don't want to lose you over something this stupid. We can work this out, can't we? You're family. Don't you want things to go back to normal?" I could almost hear the desperation in her voice. At first, I felt guilty. I wondered if I had been too harsh. I questioned whether I was doing the right thing. Was cutting them off really the best choice? Were they really that bad? Maybe I was just being overly dramatic. Maybe I was just angry and needed time to cool off. But then I remembered the years I had spent being treated like a bank account, like a source of cash and nothing more. I remembered how small they made me feel, how they never considered me a part of their real family moments. I deleted the voicemail. Later, I was having dinner with a friend when I got a text from an unknown number. It was from my dad. "Jake, I need to talk to you. We know what we did was wrong, but you need to understand something. The family's falling apart without you. Mom and I are not okay. And if you don't come back to us, we don't know what'll happen." I sat there, staring at the message for a while. It was manipulative. It was classic gaslighting. And yet, there was a part of me that felt a tug in my chest, a part of me that wanted to go back to that normal, even though I knew that normal was toxic. I didn't respond to the message. So here I am now, still in this limbo. I haven't completely cut ties, but I also haven't gone back to them. It's like I'm standing at a crossroads, unsure of which way to go. Part of me wonders if I made the right call by cutting them off. It felt empowering at the time, but now I'm questioning if it's too late for us to heal, or if their behavior will always be the same. Part of me feels like it's not worth it. I'm worth more than their manipulation. But then again, they're family. The question I keep asking myself is, am I the one who needs to change, or is it them? I don't know. Maybe this is something that can never be fixed. Maybe it's something that'll take years to heal, or maybe we're just too broken to even try anymore. So, Reddit, here's where I'm at. What should I do? Do I keep my distance for good and move on? Or should I try to reach out and maybe work things out with them? Maybe they can change. Maybe I'm being too hard on them. Or maybe this is just the end of the road. What do you think?